Hello, thank you for staying here on JoyNews today. Now, as the debate on whether or not to legalize commercial motor transport business wages on, the riders themselves, against the data of thousands of fatalities annually, are welcoming a promise by the flag bearer of the NDC to legalize the trade. The riders who've been speaking to JoyNews' Manuel Kranting say an outright abolishment of the Okada business will affect their livelihoods, though some of them are skeptical about the ability of the former president to fulfill his promise. They want a regularization of the business.
President, because what take conjunction so on papa eti conjunction so me say ye deal minimum call parliament ye demonstration call parliament me ka me no me go forward e call ya ye deal su come on say ye person mo legalize na ye duma e bia o mati tax free and sema fine ye ko kan no o say okay o mati yanko na o ma mo abasi nde e na obasi o si free so and also oba obeye eno no okano mpacho emunga kakra
because okara na no anya obia na feel say oye okara duru ba bia nema bi na otimi hu say obi wuram okara na jimam na odi moto say odi fa obi na oye kakra eto no bottom nti meti say your former president John Mahama say obelig da say okara me depa
because of this okara on yes oba asama baba na nye because yes some binu wa ya me say ni me on kola 5 me ejuma bia ejuma we na me dia hwe me first one na wo wie SS to see our university first year because of okada enya okada na me ye ya manya half load kra ma si dan ba ko si so a me ne me yire ne mba wo
sika okada no musa
oh say juma bia enam se na obeye no because me say be from the beginning me say be 20 Ghana every day for 1 year. Oh,
see a day obey juma otuminya sen.
E magi me ba juma na Yakupon duma mituminya 70 100 a day.
If you are not careful, you can work at the end of the day you do cause 90 job, because if you work a day and police catch you 3 times and take you if you work a day and police catch you 3 times, despite the fact that you work that day, you not get 50 Ghana and they catch you 3 times. Whether you like it or not, if a police catch your motor, you have to do something before you can go. So that's why I see to it that the business, it seems that we don't have any support. Because we don't have any support, we see to it that they don't value us as human beings in Ghana here. We are also voting. So that is why I just make a point, like if they will not legalize it, then they should do something to it. That is why, because I know when they cancel this one, it's going to be a big effective, because the population in Accra here doing Accra job is not small population, and because of a lot of duties that there are, a lot of people enter into Okada business.
Yenya red, who say red in any econo. Ye jina traffic light now. Police near Oba, or jina traffic light or direct traffic light. It is duty to direct traffic light. But over just Dumano, Abache, Moto. Until you do traffic light now. Now, fears be up by home until you say, hey, you pass up, police in the chair. So 100 Ghana, 50 Ghana, 70 Ghana. Sometimes Uber and a crown for passenger back. Ebia 5 city na wokunokuo na 3 city ana police akoche demand 100 Ghana.
Now joining us is the president of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, Abel Hammond, for us to have a discussion on this. We've heard from the politicians, we've heard from the National Road Safety Authority. What do you think, as an Institute of Logistics and Transport, are we really ready to legalize this, or should we even consider it at all?
Thank you very much. Whether we are ready to unban Okada, I think a lot of things will have to be done. First, the law LI 210 bans Okada. It's possible for it to go to Parliament, and currently I know that there's a bill. There's still consultation to work on a bill to see whether it could be unbanned. But we from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport believe that a lot of things must go in. If you look at the entirety of the country, probably some parts of the country may need something like that. But we are against unbanning Okada, and for which it will be the norm for city transport. Because Ghana has invested a lot in mass transportation, MMT, and then the Ayalolo. So you cannot combine motorbike with such mass transportation in the city. Even in the rural areas, probably one thing that could be done is that in the peripheral communities, it could be looked at. But we in the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport believe that we must combine the issue of safety and the issue of political economy. In fact, from science, you realize that Okada is killing a lot of people. But I know that there are different types of sciences. We have the road safety science and we have political science. And for political science, also looked at political economy. And for politicians, they think that it offers livelihood for people. And so they will want to go ahead with that. But we must also tread cautiously.
Mr. Hammond, you've spoken about the political science and the road safety science, but what about the sociology science? We know people in this country who, but for a motorbike, would have died. But for a motorbike, wouldn't have had their children or their babies in a hospital. That's in that part of the conversation.
Yeah, for example, we have three delays which causes maternal mortality. One is delay in deciding even to go to the hospital. The second delay is getting transportation to serve as a bridge between where you are to the hospital. And in the rural communities, I know that transportation availability is very, very scarce. And so motorcycles are there. But you also want to find out that a pregnant woman, would a motorbike really be the best to carry a pregnant woman?
Well,
or somebody collapse?
Well, better have that than nothing at all, isn't it?
Yes, anyway, better have that than nothing at all. But what we are saying is that can a better transport system be provided for the rural transport rather than saying that we want to just go straight to Okada? There might be other forms that are better. If you go to Upper East, you go to the northern regions, they have the tricycles. We have even tricycle ambulances in the Upper East where they used to convey people. In the meantime, political economy will tell us that, okay, fine, let's unban Okada. But I will say that in the long term, that is not where the country should plant ours.
Okay.
We should plant ours giving some dignity for the people. And in terms of the fact that we can do appropriate technology. You don't need the national ambulance type of vehicle. You need very simple appropriate technology that will convey people from one place to the other. And we are saying that government should be looking into that into the future. Okay. But we should be looking into the future, long-term future with Okada. All right. And for the safeties, we should not, what do you call it? Unban Okada.
Mr. Hammond, I just have to come in there. Let me bring in Kwame Etuahene-Kodua. He's head of regulation, inspection and compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. So to you, Mr. Etuahene-Kodua, thank you for joining the program. I'm going to start off my question to you by reading some portion of a post by Mr. Kofi Bentil. He is with Imani Africa. Now, just at the bottom part of his post, he says, if you are not prepared to legalize and properly regulate this important transport and economically viable subsector, then you are not prepared to run a nation like Ghana. Yes, it is hard work, but it must be done. He says, get serious and do the real work. What's your response to that, sir? Hello, Mr. Etuahene.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Etuahene-Kodua. Please, did you get my question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Afternoon to your viewers and also to the president of SILT. I think that we need to be very dispassionate with these matters. And I've read Mr. Bentil's comment. It is not as though in every sector of the world or in every part of the world, motorcycles are used for transport services. That alone should tell you that if you travel around the world, vehicles provide transportation needs. Motorcycles are there as a mode of transportation. To the extent that in other countries or other jurisdictions, motorcycles have not been regulated or allowed for these purposes or these reasons. Must say that there is a concern. It doesn't for any reason mean regulators in those jurisdictions are not serious or are not ready to appeal to these transportation modes. Let's see. The authority prior to 2012, when this matter became a part of our regime, had a series of consultations, engaged a number of stakeholders, including members of parliament. You could talk to Honorable Fitzpatrick, who was at the core of these discussions at the time, and a number of MPs in constituencies where this trade, quote unquote, were beginning to emerge. We had looked at best practice examples from jurisdictions within the West African sub-region, and the evidence at the time suggested that it was unsafe to consider motorcycle for commercial transportation mode, particularly in the 21st century. Somehow, because of enforcement challenges, we have all allowed this practice to fester. So we do not try to shape policy based on our own sentiments.
All right. Okay. So
what we do is to do a bit of reflection.
Okay.
And I could tell you that for the last year, we have gone around the country, met with various groups to try to solicit a view on the best approach as to whether we want to keep the status quo or review the law in one form or the other. Ultimately, whatever decision is taken must be one that is responsive to our collective safety and ensure that we will be safe.
So,
and that's where we are.
So with all the consultations you've done, are you arriving at a certain workable model for Ghana, or you're yet to achieve that?
Well, so it is not conclusive yet. In fact, I'm sure you must have heard from the Ghana Medical Association and other allied interest groups, and very intense and strict positions they have taken on these matters because of the experiences they have on a daily basis. There are other jurisdictions where some bit of regulation has been allowed, but you want to ask those who are quick to refer to those models. I've heard people talk about the Rwanda model. Yes, Rwanda, some bit of regulation occurs, but are you able to situate the Rwanda context, the Ghanaian context, a level of discipline that you find ordinarily within or among road users in Rwanda? Are you in the same situation as far as our local context is concerned? In Ghana, the insurance industry have told us quite clearly that they are unable to take up that risk.
Okay, so let me find out finally, sorry, let me just come in there. So you are head of regulation, inspection and compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. You've done some work, especially in the bit of compliance with relation to the Rwandan example. Are you confident that even if we come up with a certain model or regularize the Okada business, we would have compliance from Ghanaian riders?
I'm unable to say at this point. It will depend on a number of factors. Let me point out a few things to you. For instance, today, even though we have a number of people getting into the road environment to ride, there is absolutely no training school in this country that trains motor riders. There's no one. So to a very large extent, the many people you find on the road who ride learn to ride on their own. And you want to ask whether the enabling conditions are right. So if you want to regulate, like the way you regulate transport, other transport operations, if you want to do VLA, they have accredited driving schools that try to assist persons to ride. I mean, to teach them the skill and the knowledge that relates to riding of a vehicle. Do those opportunities exist within this mode of transportation? I do not think they do. It doesn't mean it is not a possibility. But once you begin to talk about regulation, for me, the interest must be about your sense of readiness. Your sense of readiness. We need to look at all of that as a collective. But I need to concede and confirm what the president said. There are parts of this country where if you take out motorcycle as a means of transportation, virtually there are issues. But you are asking whether it is not for the same reasons or for the same areas where you have a state transport service provider like Metro Mass Transit, which is supposed to serve areas where typically the private vehicle owner.
But the MMT is intercity, not intracity. Sorry, the MMT is intercity, not intracity. We're looking at communities having to move, sometimes within the same jurisdiction. But that's all time will allow us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I agree. Sure. But when you look at the study that was conducted quite early, that led to the position of the law in 2180. That was a suggestion that in areas where there was a genuine transportation need, the state must look to deploying state interventions, like the Metro Mass Transit services, to those areas to provide for those transportation modes.
Yeah, really appreciate your time here. Sorry, Mr. Tuahini, we have to end it. Apologies. Kwame Tuahini Kodia is Head of Regulation, Inspection and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. Earlier, we had Abel Hammond, he's President of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport.